I have to admit, I walked past my big print in the lake a few times and I love it.
Roger, nice to be here with you at Vevey, sitting in a nice environment. And you have your work shown at the festival. Your work is entitled Escapism. It's about photography, about images. And because we are here in a festival that is dedicated to images, can you tell me what was your introduction to images? Was it when you were a child and you were like attracted by books?
Well, so I'm born pre-digital, so it must have been an analog. The first real experience that I remember with working with images is when I was, I think, 14. I bought a copy. I just entered high school and I bought a copy at the local bookstore of that high school of Gotthard Schuh. Do you remember the Swiss photographer Gotthard Schuh? The book was called Insel der Götter. It was his travel photography, I think, somewhere in the South Pacific. And I made a collage for my desktop. So I laminated it, and that's where I did my homework on.
With these old images, black and white, old classical photography.
Exactly. Not knowing anything about it, just I needed something to cut out to make a collage for my desktop, and it happened to be Gotthard Schuh. It could have been a lot worse. I mean, Gotthard Schuh is.
And what is interesting about what you say, it's your introduction somehow was through a book, a photography book. Mm-hmm. Today we are here in a festival where we celebrate photography, and the photography is all over the streets. It's outside, it can be monumental, and part of your work is shown outside, outdoor. Another side is more classical in the museum. So is it the right way for you to have your work as a photographer shown on the walls, or to be shown but not reproduced in a book? You know, some photographers are more books, others are more exhibitions. What is for you the main focus?
I think I'm definitely coming from the book side. I also run a small publishing business called Be Frank Books. I think in books. I think all my projects have sort of a beginning point and an end point, always having this book form in mind in terms of how big a project will be, how many different aspects of like sort of chronological storytelling elements. On the other side, I definitely cherish the printmaking aspect of photography. I like big prints on the wall. I like working with these materials. I like working on the computer with like changing small details of it. So I really like both. The aspect of having work outside, especially here, I have a big print in the lake, is new and fascinating to me, and is also a challenge. And I don't know if you've seen, there's also some of my work is on a bus, and there it was very different because all of a sudden scale becomes enormous, and the work becomes quite abstract when it necessarily isn't abstract in the beginning, but once it's blown up that big, it's just a small part of my image is on the bus, and that is new to me. That was a challenge to sort of wrap your head around it and cope with it, but it's a great challenge and it's a lot of fun.
And also what is interesting here with Vevey, because we are outside, and you just mentioned about your photograph being reproduced on a bus, in a way you are not in a condition as a visitor going into a museum or a gallery where we know that we are going to see art. And with this experience, your work certainly is accessible for everyone, because even people just walking in the streets can see that. How was this experience for you here?
I think it's terrific. I have to admit, I walked past my big print in the lake a few times, and you see people commenting in it, and the sunset happened right behind the image. It's like people commenting, it's like, oh, there's two sunsets now in one photograph. I love it. This is what it's all about. This is also where I come from in terms of bookmaking. I think bookmaking is maybe a little bit of a more democratic way of making art because it's easier distributed. People are probably less afraid of opening a book than going into a museum. But this is a whole other level, this festival. It's like, it's right in your face, and it challenges the people of Vevey, but also the people that come here to interfere with photography in great ways.
And also thinking about the work you have here, it's also a way that is really open to a lot of people, because in Switzerland we have these little creamer, and you photograph the lid and showing all the range of images that are reproduced. This is also something that with this work that you open to everyone, because that's an experience with images outside the museum or outside art, to look at these images and the way you reproduce them and print them big. Suddenly it's a kind of new experience with these kind of stereotypical view landscapes that you decided to photograph.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the subject matter that I photographed, my source material, is probably the mostly distributed image carrier in Switzerland. It's especially when you consider like pre-social media, these images surrounded us every day. Every cafe, you have these small landscape photographs of picturesque Switzerland or exotic landscapes. And I think people didn't know, or necessarily it works more subconsciously, that you're surrounded by these images, I think, but it does something to you. If it does shape your visual understanding, or maybe misunderstanding of the world or of Switzerland, by
the landscape,
or the landscapes
yeah.
in general, by seeing them. And so this is what I'm playing with here with this exhibition, Escapism.
Mm-hmm. I have another question about rituals. You know, the violinists, they need to practice every day their art. Writers, maybe they go in coffee shops and they have to be surrounded by, you know, the world and some agitation. So what about you? How do you work? Are you more like working alone in a kind of protected place, or do you need to be out and look at the world and be outside to make your art?
I think to come up with ideas, I'm very solitary. Most of it happens on walks. I walk every day for about an hour to 2 hours in the forest. I live right next to a forest. So every day I go walk and sort of imagine things, plus newspapers. Newspapers is the biggest source for it was the starting point for pretty much every series that I've worked on so far. So it's the combination of reading and then going out and sort of thinking about what I've read. My actual making the work has always been with people in different countries, or even here. It's a conversation, it's a collaboration. It always is a collaboration, whether it is with people that are actually doing work with you or for you, or just the printing, the retouching. The actual work is a collaboration, but the coming up with ideas is at least in my case, quite solitary.
And the final question is, we are here in this hotel. Can you imagine that tonight you can invite someone for dinner? And who would that be as a personality? Would that be an artist, a philosopher, a musician, a photographer, a politician, someone still living or someone dead? Anybody. You can decide for a tête-à-tête dinner.
Well, now you just made it very easy. I would probably give our child to my parents and then have a quiet dinner with my wife.
That's good. Good
yeah,
enough.
so I think that would be a good tête-à-tête at the moment.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.